All right, welcome to the book club. I'm Dylan here with Patient Zero. Keith, what's up, buddy?
Hey, how's it going?
It's going great. Thanks for asking. Here at the Buddy Book Club, we're breaking down some we're breaking down some box office bangers. And this week we'll be discussing 2013's box office hit World War Z, based on the Max Brooks. Wow, I'm all over the place, but somewhat relevant. Max Brooks' novel of the same name. I said Mel Brooks because he is Mel Brooks' son. If you'd like to recommend a book or movie for us to read or watch, you can visit our website, buddybookclub.com, or slide into our DMs or Twitter or Instagram, Buddy Book Club Podcast. You can listen to us on iTunes, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts, so please download and subscribe. Keith, although we're doing the movie, because I think we didn't want to reread the book because we had both read it, the book has a special place in both of our hearts, whether we loved it or hated it, because this was the first book I ever recommended to you.
That's correct. This is where all the deep-seated hatred and anger resonates from towards you.
This is where you got the idea for the Buddy Book Club. It was just a twinkle in your eye at the time, but you were like, a like-minded reader.
When we were at work, that was the first book club. We were just basically yelling back and forth between each other about what we thought, while we had an audience there that quickly put headphones on and started not listening to us.
Yeah,
so similar to our audience currently.
Except they're taking off their headphones as opposed to
right, of course.
Yeah. It's famous between us because, one, I personally was very excited when someone else asked me for a book recommendation. At the time, I'd been commuting, and I had a goal that I was going to start reading again, because I never actually read any of those books in high school. Sorry to all my teachers out there. I just, cliff noted it, skirted by as best I could. When I was commuting, I was like, you might as well start reading again, and read a bunch of classics, read some great sci-fi stuff, including this one, and passed it on to you, and you came back and said, this book sucked.
We'll get into it, but I think there's a lot of parallels between the book, in my mind, and the last book we did, The Martian, and his previous books. I think that's the reason I didn't like it. It was very similar to that.
But we're talking about the movie here, starring Brad Pitt. So, Keith, what do you got for Stock Up?
This one's only going to really make sense to me. I don't think anyone's going to...
Perfect, just like all the other ones.
But being bald, Stock Up... Your boy, he's going bald. I got a little widow's peak since I was probably 14 years old. No.
Widow's peak is what you're born with. A peninsula is what you have.
Well, first off, the comb over hides it. Let's be honest, all right? Let's first start there. But I might be the only person that noticed this, but when everything starts clicking for Brad Pitt, he's on the airplane, and the girl with the arm that's cut off or whatever is like, I'm a liability now, and he's like, wait a second, and he starts flashing back. They show the old guy who's staggering around, who's balding, who's on the street disheveled. Then they show a kid who just has a bald head.
I see where you're going.
And then they flash back to the girl who has a shaved head, and then they showed the soldier also, who was like, I assumed had a shaved head at the time, and I was like, oh shit, so they don't go after people that shave their heads. That's literally what I thought.
Is that actually what you thought?
I swear to God, I wrote like, oh, that's kind of crazy, and then he's like, no, it's something to do with like a weakness in their body.
A weakness in their body.
Yeah, I knew that, but that's where my brain goes. But they all were connected. I mean, that's basically like me like seeing the pattern, right? Especially because the girl has a shaved head, which is weird, right? That would like, you know what I mean?
Well, it'd be hilarious if even after he said, no, it's about a weakness in their body, you were like, I don't really necessarily think balding is a weakness, but okay, sure, but saving some zombies. Like, you still didn't get it at that point? It would have been great.
Also, with this in mind, though, when the flashback started to occur, they showed the army guy who didn't get attacked because his knee was like slightly bruised or whatever. We flash forward to a couple days later. Brad Pitt literally takes a chair through his kidney or through his like liver.
Yeah, some shrapnel.
I mean, let's go after him. He's not injured enough. It's like, but the guy with a slight knee problem is not getting...
No. So it was somewhat of a red herring, I think, between the old guy and then the young kid who, now looking back, had cancer or something. I'm thinking the guy with the leg thing had like MS or something like that.
We need to be a doctor to know that? Like, how would I ever know
No, that? It wasn't like an injury. It was some sort of virus or autoimmune issue which had fucked up his leg.
Wouldn't it make more sense if he was like, yeah, and I just passed out here? It's like, what happened? It's like, I don't know, I've had these dizzy spells for weeks. Like something that's like a clear indication that there's like something wrong with the person rather than...
I think they didn't
My knee was hurting. It's like, what?
They didn't want to make it too obvious. Wait, so did you think that it was just like any sort of weakness? Like you have a torn ACL? Like you're
That's
good?
what I thought. Well, they showed the guy, and the whole reason he remembers is he's He's like, well, they didn't attack me because my knee's been bothering me. It should be anything other than the knee. The knee is like the least obvious symptom of something.
Yeah. Maybe he had fucking bone cancer or something.
Yeah, like I said, like he's getting dizzy spells or his abdomen's been hurting him. Something that's like more internal.
I think they just didn't want to make it that obvious. The guy was going to be like, oh, sorry, I've been struggling with a seriously bad case of bone cancer.
This movie wasn't exactly the next coming of The Sixth Sense here.
But speaking of, on that point, I did like the idea where you could have drawn those conclusions yourself, like correctly, and be like, oh, like that kid looks like he's been doing chemo.
Cancer doesn't make you just lose your hair, right?
Correct, yeah.
But that poor kid that was on the street getting chemo,
What poor kid on the street?
that kid that was bald.
How do you know he was poor?
He was in like rags and stuff.
He was probably coming out of a hospital.
Okay.
Stop trying to draw too many exact parallels here.
I think my bald hair thing makes more sense than a lot of what's going on here, honestly.
That would have been the best thing. Like, they spend $250 million on a movie, and they're like, all right, so then the crux of this zombie movie is that it only attacks people with hair. Brad, you're going to have to grow out shoulder length Sir Lancelot style hair so that can be the big thing at the end is like, I have to shave my head. My first stock up are magazines, because they're not just for spreading germs in the doctor's office waiting room. Quite the opposite, actually. They will stop germs from spreading if a zombie bites you. And honestly, this is one of my favorite parts of this movie, just the realism aspect.
Whoa, realism aspect?
Yeah, well, you see so many zombie type movies and people just go in unprotected. Didn't make any sense to me. What are they going to come at you first? The limbs, right? Mm-hmm. So you might as well get whatever you can, and a magazine or something like that makes total sense. Like, you can't bite. No one can just bite through a magazine. Actually, what makes total sense is what the North Koreans did, which is pull out everyone's teeth. That seemed genius up until the point that they figured out a cure, and then there's 20 million North Koreans without teeth. The magazine thing sounded great to me, and related, just being smart about weaponry. Between the weaponry stuff and the protection, I remember that being a very cool part of the book, because the book was pretty matter of fact about like, here's what you should do to survive a zombie apocalypse. And there was situations like in Yonkers in the book when the military went in right at the beginning of the zombie war and just tried to like drop bombs and have like men on the ground to clean up. All they did was like knock the legs off these zombies. There was like crawlers everywhere just crawling up and biting people. So you need to get the brain. So it was just such a great part of the book as they created these like cool weapons that were specifically designed to fight zombies, as well as protection, which, you know, in this they did the magazine thing, which I thought was a great idea and also gave some homage to the book itself. I was surprised though that in Israel, when they were just tossing grenades at the zombies, they didn't throw back to that like Yonkersy type thing in the book where the grenade really didn't do much because it didn't get their brain, and like even a stray head lying there would reach over and bite someone. So I was upset they didn't do something like that, because that would have been enjoyable. Just kill one of the other hundreds of people you killed in this movie. But in general, magazines, stock up. Hey, they still exist. Keep advertising. What else, Jeff?
Just in general, being mysterious, and plus having people explain how important you are off camera. Stock up.
Okay.
Who is Brad Pitt? What exactly does he do? Why is he so important? I still don't understand it, other than the fact that they're like, well, you know what you did in the Libya Civil War. Okay, what did he do? I don't really get why he's getting a helicopter rescue, why he's the only guy going out here that can do this. Like, what is he that's so special about him, other than being dashingly good looking? I mean, what are we doing here? He just hands the phone to people and they're like, oh shit, this guy is important. It's like, well, what did they say to him? Why is he so important? I don't get it. Do you understand what happened? That bugged me so much. I was like, so this is gonna be a big reveal, and they just were like, no.
So he's an investigator for the UN. So he goes into hostile situations and ensures humanitarian aid is being taken care of. Assesses the situation in terms of how bad is this dictatorship, whatever the case is. I think the point is that he's been in and survived these extreme non-zombie situations. And he's not like a military guy, but he's kind of a jack of all trades, a Swiss Army knife. They want him
If
to
you
be
tell me he's
the
Mitch Rapp, kid, then I get it.
He's Mitch Rapp without the military training, but with more of a human interest background.
But couldn't we just have one clip of someone being like, why are we saving this guy's family? There's millions of people we could save instead. We don't need to send our helicopter there. And the guy goes, no, Brad Pitt is the guy we need. Know why? Because this guy, and then he just lists off his like, this is what he does. And he, like, he'll go in and he'll like solve the problem for us. Like, he does more work by himself than like a whole army can, like that's what you need. Like a spiel that gets you amped up of like, then cuts back to him taping his arms up with like magazines. And you're like, oh, okay, I get it.
That's kind of like what the Syria conversation was, or whatever it was. Where's
I don't know what happened in Syria.
Where's Gaddafi?
I'm an uncultured swine. How am I supposed to know this stuff? Oh, Libya. They were assigned in red alert too. Is that what we're going with? You know what I mean? Like, I don't know anything about them. Like,
all you have to know is that he's important, and you got it. They're flying a helicopter out for him. He's important. He can do things.
All right. I think I'm on a much more negative look at this because I also came in already not liking it because of the book, and you came in liking it because of the book. So we're in very different
that's wrong.
places.
This is the second time I've seen this movie. I saw it when it came out because I loved the book. So I was like, this movie's going to be awesome. I saw it. I said, this movie.
Well, you saw the previews, so you must have known what you're getting yourself into, right?
I had an idea, but they can't obviously make the book, which was, it was like the 9/11 report, but for zombies. Very straight talk to you. It wasn't like a narrative. It was a series of interviews, basically, that some guy did after the zombie war. So the zombie war is over. So it's a series of interviews of like how it started and also like firsthand accounts and stuff like that. It's not going to be that. So they have to have like a main character, some sort of running narrative. Like obviously it's got to be a movie format. I didn't know exactly what it was going to be like, but the second I saw the fast zombies in the movie, when I started watching it, I was like, oh, this movie's terrible. I hated it. I hated it the first time.
What I think they should have gone for, and what they probably were trying to go for, was, have you ever seen Contagion?
Yes.
I think there was supposed to be that, where it's like, do the research and trace it back. It's going to be some sort of drama with science involved, but then also there's going to be a lot of action with zombies. That would have been, I think, cool. And then you tie in the book with like, here's what all the other countries did, and here's how we're learning as we go. But that's not what the movie was at all.
To be clear, the second time around, I actually really liked this movie. The first time, I was upset it wasn't like the book at all. Like, I wanted to be at least like it, and it wasn't. And then, because you wanted to do this movie, I was like, all right, whatever, I'll come in with, a clear mindset. And I had to convince the wife here, who hates zombie movies, to watch it. And she normally falls asleep like 5 minutes into a movie, and I had to tell her, like, we got to pause this and go to bed because there was like 30 minutes left. She was like, let's just finish it. I was like, you kidding me? We got to go to bed right now.
I don't know what's going on in that household. You guys hate Hitch, but somehow this is a movie you stay up for and love. I don't get it. I don't like it. I don't get it. I don't care for it.
Hitch was seriously lacking in zombies. My next step up is people helping people. It is indeed a beautiful thing. There's a lot of that in this movie, surprisingly. We got the Hispanic family at the beginning, letting Brad Pitt and his family into their apartment. There's a zombie apocalypse and someone comes knocking at my front door. 0% chance they are getting in without force. Just, it's not going to happen. You'd think, oh, okay, you're going to let them in because, like, you want their help, maybe? But they're like, all right, we got a helicopter coming. It's the United Nations. They're going to take us to an aircraft carrier. We're going to be safe. He's like, no, man, my life is in Newark, New Jersey. I'm good here. It's like, what are you?
Oh, I didn't realize they offered him to go as well.
I think he said, you can come with us. They were like, no, we're fine. He's like, I got at least 10 more of these Budweiser bottles, so I am good. Well, 9 more because I gave you one, you friggin' gringo. But there's also just the ton of people sacrificing. I really enjoyed it. It was great stuff with the plane going out. Then be like, someone's got to take off the fuel nozzle, whatever the case, and detach it. The guy's like, I really hope Israel pays off. And just walks out like going to his own death. Love that.
Yeah, why couldn't they just wait until the morning? I didn't get that. They're like, it's pouring out and we need to leave right this second. It's like, why? Like, why don't we just wait till we can see the zombies?
They didn't really touch on zombies at night, but the rain would definitely hide their sounds.
whatever you do, don't make any noises. But here's these bikes that are going to be super loud, and then we're going to drive literally a tanker full of gasoline. But if your cell phone rings, that's really going to be the issue, not the tanker of gasoline.
Well, the tanker was supposed to come like later. It was supposed to be everyone's in position, and then the tanker drives in.
I guess that makes sense.
But yeah, they could have oiled those bikes before they left. Like you got gun oil in the place. Just throw a little bit of oil on those bikes. It'd be fine. Also, who has a cell phone on ringer? Come on, man. Vibrate mode. Yeah, but there's a lot of help. I mean, even the Israeli guy at the end, when after he creates this huge, beautiful society in the zombie war, it gets overrun. He's like, all right, your only goal is to save Brad Pitt right now. What did you think about that airplane scene? Did you like it?
Well, I kind of knew it was coming, one, from the previews, and two, just basically they showed the gun not added to the plane, and I was like, oh, so there's going to be zombies on the plane, obviously. You know, they wouldn't show that, them not taking the gun, if it was going to be a nice, smooth flight. All the action scenes were great. Throwing a grenade in the plane.
Genius.
Just go to the cockpit and hang out there, right? Lock the door. You already did that in a previous flight, so why not just do it again?
One, you're not sure that the pilots would let you in, because I sure wouldn't if I was a pilot.
And then you throw a grenade. That's fine.
I thought the grenade was a great idea in terms of like, although I don't know how much of like a vacuum it would actually be.
The whole plane not blowing up is that'd probably be the case. If you're like, how about that air combusting like inside of a silo?
Huh? What are you air combusting? What are you talking about?
If you have like a pressurized capsule and you explode something in it, it blows things up much bigger than if you're just outside in the open.
Interesting.
If you put a grenade in your hand, you squeeze it, it's blowing your whole hand off. If you have an open fist, I guess a firecracker is a better example.
Yeah.
You squeeze a firecracker.
I saw
right?
Armageddon. I understand the analogy.
Is that from Armageddon?
Yeah,
I was like,
is.
I know this is from something.
Yeah. Oh, interesting. Because I was going to say, like, in World War II, people would get shot and, bombs going off, flak guns coming in, but none of those airplanes are pressurized.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah. Whatever. Either way, people helping people. It's a beautiful thing. Stock down. What do you got?
Having a family stock down.
Oh.
Well, this applies to literally every single person. This movie kind of makes it seem like having a family is not ideal. So first we learned at like the beginning of the movie that Brad Pitt, again, is this mystery man that's amazing at his job that like only he can do. And his wife's like, you got to give up the job. You can't do it anymore. We have kids.
Yeah.
He's like, all right, I'm giving up the job. So he gives up his dream job.
To make pancakes at home, which would be awesome. I give up every dream job for that.
Well, I agreed. But what about if you had like 2 asthmatic kids? I mean, were you still doing that now?
They need inhalers. Albuterol.
Yeah, they needlessly risk their lives. His daughter can't mentally get it together. Like, just breathe. You know what I mean? Like, come on, figure it out.
I'm surprised that she wasn't immune.
Oh, yeah, good point. Yeah, she should have been. So they didn't even need to do that. But then we never even hear ever again about her asthma stuff. So she's just making it up. She
got the albuterol.
Yeah, but don't you take that to like cure it, not necessarily to...
No,
like, it still can act up.
It's a recovery inhaler. It's for when your windpipe tightens or whatever.
When you need it. Yeah, so she never needed it again. So she was just faking it the whole time. But anyways... But then they get this helicopter evacuation from this terrible place because Brad Pitt's amazing. We don't know what he does, Bill, but so they're like, all right, we're coming to get you because you're the best. They leave the mom and the 2 kids, run to the helicopter and leave Brad Pitt behind, who's the most important person to fight the zombies by himself. They're like, you're not going to help your dad out? You're not going to help your husband here fight the zombies a little bit?
No way.
So they just ditch him. They're in the helicopter. Right? Like, oh, great, you came back. We forgot you were there, Like, they didn't give a shit about him. Then they get to the ship, and he's like, I can't go off again, do it to my family. He tells his wife, and she's like, I know what it did to you. You can't do it again. You can't do this. And he's like, well, they're going to kick you off the ship. Instead of her being like, it doesn't matter. As long as we stay together as a family, which is what 99% of these movies do. She says, oh, in that case, get the fuck out of here. Good luck. Don't die out there. Give me your stat phone. Yeah, that'll be cool. I don't care. As long as we're safe, I don't give a shit about you. I mean, I've never seen anything like this. She doesn't give a shit about him. Basically, that's all we hear from the wife and the kids ever again. Like, that was like the main story for the first like 30 minutes. And they're like, who gives a fuck about these people? We'll just have her call and be annoying one time. That's it.
Yeah, at the end in Nova Scotia, when he goes and finds them, The mom, you see her visibly upset because he's
back.
back. She's like, "Fuck!
You survived?
I didn't want to have to pay the lawyer for the divorce papers, like to file these up. It's gonna be so awkward to like tell this guy who loves me that I want a divorce, and now he's alive. I don't even get his pension. He probably had a pretty nice UN pension plus some life insurance. I'm not getting any of that. Fuck! And now he's coming back after all this traumatic stuff." He's going to want to sleep with me. Like, that's terrible. And then 2, he's going to have night terrors and be shaking at night. He's going to ruin my sleep. Oh, this is not good. Wave, girls, wave. Wave to your dad.
All right,
Hi,
girls, you got to
Dad.
pretend you have asthma again, okay?
My first duck down was just, I had already mentioned it, but Fast Zombies. I'm a big traditional zombie guy, and it was also how it was in the book, which is zombies are slow movers. You know, they kill you by numbers and just relentless. The only fast zombie that I liked is 28 Days Later or 28 Weeks Later. Those are great, but it's also like those are like somehow more fucked up, and the zombies are like scarier, if that's even possible. They're just super frightening, and that movie is just so dark. I just don't love the idea of this like giant sprinting zombie horde. I just like the traditional version of zombies much better. So it took away a little bit from me. It took away a lot the first time I watched it. The second time, since I knew, I was like, all right, I know what I'm getting into, and it wasn't ideal for sure, but I dealt with it.
Never understood, I mean, just the whole zombie genre of like the person dies and then somehow becomes superhuman strength and speed and everything gets better when they die. Like
the strength part isn't accurate. I mean, in this maybe, like this in this universe, yeah.
in The Last of Us, I think they do a really good job of like being like, this is what could happen because it happens in nature where something like takes over the brain, but they don't become like the best of at all time and everything all of a sudden. They're not like superheroes.
There was that one that came out of the ground, that like super one or whatever.
I think that was a head nod to the video game though. That wasn't necessarily. Yeah. I think most of it's based in reality, but like in a video game, you need bosses, so that's why they have that. But like, I mean, realistically, if it was a regular TV show, they wouldn't have had that. Everything would just be normal. But
they're gonna have a lot more of those supposedly in the second season.
Oh, really?
I just like the traditional zombie where it's just a withered human that can just like stumble around, and if it bites you, you're fucked up. And because there's so many of them, they're able to just take over, and they won't ever stop. They don't sleep, they don't do anything, they just go. So I like that. Not a huge fan of the fast zombies, but although the shot when they like took over Israel, I thought was pretty cool, when they're just like climbing the wall.
It just doesn't make sense to me. You know, you kind of suspend reality for that. Whereas like the whole book is, this is where the tie back comes to Martian and to Project Hail Mary. The book I didn't like because we're going to do a newspaper of a story that you never saw, you know, like a thing that you never witnessed.
It was the 9/11 report.
Yeah, I don't know what that means, but yeah, totally.
It's like a huge thing that came out after 9/11 explaining like all the aspects of what happened,
From different
how
perspectives.
it happened. It wasn't necessarily like firsthand account people, but it was very scientific.
To use an analogy, it would be like the Death Star report. And it'd just be someone telling a story about how in a world far, far away, there's this big moon ship that got destroyed. No, let's see the story. Nobody wants to hear a newspaper report of what happened.
Yeah.
Like if you didn't know anything about the Death Star, you'd be like, who gives a shit? Which is the same thing for this, is like where the movie did it, tried to at least show where it came from and how it originated, the actual zombies fighting, where the book was like, yeah, let's tell like a summary of what happened for an event you weren't a part of.
I see what you're saying there, and I agree with you. I just liked the book aspect. I mean, I can understand how it's not like entertaining or whatever the case is. Although the book did have like some cool scenes, like the helicopter pilot stuff, the Yonkers thing, I remember being cool. But the zombie idea, there's just like so many tropes, and it's just all redundancy. I love zombie stuff in general, so I've seen a bunch of it, and it often seems old stuff redone with newer graphics or better makeup, whatever the case is. So I thought this was just the book, I mean, was an interesting take. What if this did really happen? What if it was like COVID but it was zombie? My next stock down is the so-called smart people on the aircraft carrier. So I'm not talking about the nerds in the room, the situation room, basically. The nerds are talking about could it be a virus, could it be bacteria, whatever the case is. I'm talking about the brass, because they have this one guy who's this hotshot scientist who seems to have an idea that if he can find out where it originated, he's going to be able to figure this out. Everyone agrees with him. You know, this is Will Smith and Jeff Goldblum in a better Will Smith movie called Independence Day. Like, they are the ones that you need right now. And they decide to send him out with Brad Pitt, which is fine. But they send him on this quest to find the source of the virus with like 5 other guys. And they don't even give him like simple gun handling training before he leaves. He's going to have a gun. You know that. So spend a day. You can delay this thing by a day or 12 hours, whatever the case is. Take him to the back of this aircraft carrier and let him hold a gun. Teach him how to, you know, some trigger discipline, how to keep the finger off of it, where to hold it, how to shoot it. And then that way he's not falling on the ground shooting himself in the head.
When I first saw that, I thought he just died from falling. I was like, wait, what? I'm like, was this guy this unathletic? He just slipped and died?
What is this, a video game? You have died from falling.
Yeah. I mean, also, it's kind of funny how they like kind of built his character up to immediately die. I was like, oh,
honestly, I thought that was awesome. I loved it. I forgot about that part of it because I knew Brad Pitt was obviously the main character. But I forgot like how this guy died or whatever the case was.
We need his head to blow through like the back. It was very confusing, right? Where did you immediately think that he shot himself in the head?
Yeah, I did.
Oh, okay. I was like, so he just slipped. So why isn't he getting up?
The wife had no idea when it happened. She's like, wait, what just happened? And she was like, wait, did he just shoot himself in the head? And it was funny because like you said, they just built his character up. So she's all excited. She's like, okay, like Brad Pitt's going to like protect him and like this is all going to happen. This guy's going to figure it out. And then next scene, just, you know, accidentally shoots himself in the head. Like, what the fuck? It was, I loved it. I love that part. I think that was actually my favorite part of the movie.
Yeah, that was me at the end of the movie. I wanted to do that.
Really?
Yeah. I thought the story was pretty stupid.
All right. What else you ever stock down?
Well, this ties right into it. Deadly viruses stock down.
You don't say. That stock's pretty low, by the way.
In terms of potency, you would think it'd be a high stock, you know, like just in terms of that. I don't think deadly viruses even matter anymore. The ending literally, it's him versus one zombie. He's already killed like 100 zombies in this movie, and he's like, I guess is the end of the road for me. Like, I can't get by this one zombie.
Well, he doesn't have his crowbar.
Okay, go just put some tape around your arms and just go fist fight this guy or do something. I mean, it's one zombie. You literally killed 100 of these things.
But you make a bunch of noise, and you can't kill one because it attracts the other ones, makes them angry.
Whatever. Inside the science base, they're like, oh my God, is he going to inject himself with it? Which I knew was going to happen right from the onslaught of them saying, we got to go there and, you know, we're going to have to get these things to test out. And I'm like, well, he's going to have to test it on himself, I'm sure.
Yeah, we all knew that. They weren't trying to hide it.
But then they're like, well, if he injects himself with it, he's already dead. It doesn't even matter. Okay. Flash to 5 minutes later, he's already injected himself. They're just giving him like a thing. They're like, you're fine now. End of movie.
Yeah.
What? What was the buildup? What was the drama there? There's no drama. If there's no risk to just putting SARS into your bloodstream, then why isn't everyone just doing it and then getting the antidote, you know? Like, and also, did viruses have antidotes? I thought that was like only poison. Like, once you'd have the virus, you can't take a vaccine for it because you already have it, right? So, like, I don't really get, what are they giving him?
They were giving him meningitis, viral meningitis.
This is why we have the doctor on the line here.
That was what he was supposed to take, so I think that's what he took because that's what they were administering to everyone else.
Kid, just ding up your knee and you'll be fine. And you, I don't know why we didn't do that.
Imagine if he's like, I got this. He's like, tell my family I love them. And then he just bangs his knee on like one of those metal cupboards. Does the Family Guy thing, like
yeah. The zombie's like, I'm done with this guy. His knees hurting.
Yeah, I mean, that was a big criticism from what I understand about the movie itself. Was the ending was not good, or like the way they solved it just like didn't make a lot of sense. And honestly, it didn't bother me the second time around because I didn't need this movie to slow down. This is my first love anyways, so I'll just get into it. This movie was non-stop action from the jump. Started off obviously with the little house thing, which you can't just jump into the action. You know, you have to have a little bit of setup for the zombie stuff. But that was 5 minutes. And then from that, after that 5 minutes, they get in the car. From there on out, it's just him on the run doing crazy stuff, zombies everywhere. There was like tons of suspense, tons of action, appropriate level of jump scares. I thought maybe 3 or 4 jump scares throughout the whole movie, which I think was good. They didn't like rely on it, although the first one when he's in the stairwell trying to get up to the roof of the building in New Jersey was actually a great jump scare. The wife shot through the roof. It was like one of those videos you see online where someone sits on an airbag or whatever the case is, and it shoots them like 40 feet into the air. So I just liked how it started off hot and it didn't stop. And at the end, if you decide to like slow it down with this whole thing on how they're gonna like administer these drugs or how this is gonna work, it would just kind of ruin the whole pace of what they had going on. I'm glad they just kind of wrapped it up nice and easy. Quick epilogue. Zombie War's still on. We're doing what we can. End of movie. Fine for me. I liked it.
All right. I mean, you didn't like Mission Impossible 2, but I'm pretty sure that was the exact same scenario in Mission Impossible 2 where they're like, I'm just going to inject myself with it, the disease itself, right? Like, and then Chimera or something?
Yeah, Chimera. It is called Chimera. Yeah, well, no, that's what he does. That's not the end of the movie. That's at like the middle of the movie.
When I went back and rewatched it, I was like, oh, a lot of this plot makes zero sense, where it's just like the same thing here.
That wasn't my issue with Mission Impossible 2. It just wasn't entertaining.
That's incorrect take.
What is the scientist name for him? It's like Vicules or something. He's like...
Yeah.
I don't even know.
It's
Terrible.
basically just Einstein.
Yeah, it was like Einstein sitting in the chair.
I'm German. I have a mustache.
Yeah.
I'm old, and I have
wiry hair. Perfect. What did you love about World War Z? You must have loved something.
Well, Bradley Pitt. Relevant question. I may have asked this to you before, but if you only could choose one actor's catalog of movies to play for the rest of your life, that's all you get.
Oh.
What actor are you going with? Because I actually think, and I think Brad Pitt is actually an underrated actor because he's so good looking, but I think Brad Pitt's catalog is one of the best catalogs you can have. It has comedy, it has a ton of action, a lot of dark movies, rom-coms. It has literally everything.
He lays out a lot of track. He's done a ton of movies, so he checks off the box of just hours that you could get by just watching his stuff.
And if you go like a Christian Bale, you're getting a lot of artsy, serious roles. Brad Pitt, I feel like, makes appearances in a lot of movies where he's not even the main guy, but are great movies, like Snatch.
Oh, yeah. He's great in Snatch. If you read up into the backstory of that, like how Guy Ritchie got him to sign on for that, is pretty awesome. So yeah, he'd be up there for me. I mean, I'm a huge Russell Crowe guy. Everyone knows that. If I could just watch Gladiator over and over again, so because he's got dramas, he has comedic chops. Like if you ever saw Nice Guys with him and Ryan Gosling, that was a good movie, and he was fun, like appropriately funny for his character. He's not a real sex symbol. I'm sure he has some rom-coms though, but I mean, I think he is.
Gladiator?
No, I think he is. Are you kidding me? But
okay.
I can understand how he's not, Brad Pitt. So yeah, interesting. I'm gonna look at these catalogs later. But De Niro's probably up there. You got a lot of great De Niro films. What else? Did you have any other loves?
Action was good. The different scenery was good, like going from Israel, like Philadelphia street. You could tell the movie was well shot. I bet it was going to be a great theater movie. I also like MGK, the rapper, made an appearance in the pharmacy. It wasn't him, but it looked like him. I was like, is that MGK? You know what I'm talking about? Like
Machine Gun Kelly? Is that who you're talking about? Is he alive?
What do you mean?
I don't know if he's alive or dead.
Oh, yeah, he's alive. I think, as of this recording.
We all have our own specialties. You're the Machine Gun Kelly guy. I'm the guy that remembers meningitis. Yeah, he's married to the lady from Transformers, right? Megyn Kelly? No, not Megyn Kelly. That's not who it is. Whatever. Megyn Kelly's like a Fox News journalist. Okay, sure. Yeah, it looked like him. And he was a nice guy, that guy. Just was like, hey, yeah, it works for my kids. Use this stuff. It's great.
Yeah, he looked like a crackhead.
I appreciate that's what they did. They were just showing like, hey, don't judge a book by its cover.
It was definitely positive, and that's probably why the biggest reason I didn't like the movie is because I'm more like the dystopia, new society, new government. Because I think our government, if we actually were to be faced with this situation, the people that represent us would be the first people to just be like, see you guys later. They're already selfish as shit.
No one's sacrificing their life for us.
No, absolutely not. So they're going to be like, well, we got these private helicopters, so we're going to go take off and see, good luck, fight for yourself. I mean, didn't that even happen in Texas with that one guy?
Yeah, he went to Cancun because they didn't have water or something like that.
Which yeah. I'm like, everyone's getting mad. I'm like, why? That's exactly what I expect. Like, that's not surprising in any way.
Well, technically, it's not his. It wasn't like his jurisdiction, but still, like, you should
It's a funny
probably.
talking point. I
Yeah,
don't really know
yeah,
enough.
exactly. I agree.
Yeah.
It's still a dick move, whatever. The point is you're a civil servant. Like, that is your title.
The fact that we donate to civil servants is just still mind blowing
Yeah.
that people do that. I mean, I would never. I'll die before I give $1 to any of those people.
No,
but
I mean, it's even
neither here
funny
nor
on
there.
your taxes when they're like, "Do you want to give $1 to like the Democratic or Republican primaries?" I'm like, "No, what? No, I don't want to give $1." My only other love, which I kind of talked about, was it was just a novel approach to the typical cure we see in zombie movies. I didn't necessarily like love it. It wasn't, wow, that was such a cool idea or something, but it was different, and like the ladies usually say to me, it was different and it was quick. So it worked for me.
Describe different. I'm curious. Now I'm interested.
It yaws at about a 30-degree angle.
What does? Your sail does? Is that what you're talking about? Are we talking about sea terminology here?
Yeah.
Or sea men? And
Well, my mast sure does, if you know what I'm saying. No, don't put that on record. That's not true. What'd you hate?
we already went over a lot of this stuff. I think it's more that I'm not the biggest zombie fan because I like things like kind of grounded in some reality. When you try to make it all scientific, but then you have zombies climbing up walls and jumping off and being surviving and killing people, it's like, okay, a lot of this doesn't really make sense.
Well, let's just stick with that because that was part of my hate, is that a lot of it is totally unrealistic stuff. 99 out of 100 times it doesn't bother me in movies. I'm very much willing to suspend disbelief and put my life in the hands of whatever the movie is. You know, I'm not like watching Avatar being like, no way there's blue giant people that, you know, fuck these giant flying things. Like, that just doesn't happen. They just, you know, put their tentacles into each other. No, I'm not, that's not me. But when it's based on a book, that the book itself is such a matter-of-fact take on it, it just seems disingenuous to like the idea behind the novel. So, I mean, like, just letting Jerry and his family on the aircraft carrier, like no quarantine, whatever, didn't make any sense to me. It's like they should have, and I know you're making a movie, but still, they just like come off a helicopter and they're just like running into this aircraft carrier. It's like, this is your last bastion here. Like, shouldn't this be the most protected thing? And on the aircraft carrier, they say, oh yeah, airlines are the best delivery system for the zombie virus or whatever it is. But according to Brad Pitt, it has a 10-second incubation period. So how would airlines
12 seconds, and that's how ladies describe my
12 seconds, then they turn into a zombie?
yeah exactly.
But that didn't really make a lot of sense to me. It's like, wait, why would airlines be the best then? Because the airlines take hours. And I know they said that there was different situations, so I know it probably like mutated or whatever the case was, but I don't know.
Yeah, at one point they're like, it took 5 to 7 minutes in South Korea, but Brad Pitt continues to go with the 12-second thing, and I'm like, didn't you just hear that they did 5 to like?
Are we not 100%?
And he's like,
sure?
oh, you're okay. The girl's okay. She isn't affected in 12 seconds. I'm like, maybe wait 5 to 10 minutes then. I don't know. Like, what are you doing?
Yeah, I did like how originally when he first saw the guy, he was doing the count to kind of, because he knew what was going on. He's like, oh, something's fucked up here. Like, let me just take a look at this and see what's going on. Like, he was already in investigation mode, which was cool. His character showed in many ways his qualities. So I don't know what you needed them to spell it out. You need them to tell everything.
It's just weird to be like, all right, well, I'll tell you why he's so good, and then be like, cut to the next scene. It's like, okay, I guess that did it to me. It's like, well,
what you're explaining just sounds like one of those terrible action movies where they explain to you exactly the guy's accolades or like even.
But just don't explain it at all. And just be like, I'm the guy that's going to get things done. Just say that, and I'd be more happy than them being like, we'll explain it to you. I'm going to hand the phone over to you though.
Yeah.
And then he'll explain it off camera. It's like
one of those.
What's the point of this?
One of those great like Jean-Claude Van Damme movies where some kid shows up and is like, don't you know who he is? He's won 8 kickboxing world championships in undercover places. It's like, oh, that's why
I described it as like you're at a bar and the guy's like, oh, don't fuck with Bill. Like, why? What's he known for? And it's like, oh, trust me, just don't fuck with him. Okay, like that's what it was. It was kept on being that, like over and over. Like, oh, dude, you don't want to mess with this guy. He's the best. Why? No, just don't trust me. He's the best.
Well, I thought that's all you needed to hear was that he was the best, and you were good.
Well, they didn't explain why he was good. I told you, just give me his resume one time for me. Just tell me he's Mitch Rapp, and I'm set.
We need a cutscene in every movie for you where a guy sits down and gives his resume. Well, let's get to some studio notes. This movie had a $200 million budget approximately. There were some production issues and reshoots were needed. It was supposed to be less than that, and then it ballooned up. But hey, it made $550 million worldwide. So it definitely paid for itself. The first screenplay was written by Babylon 5 and Rising Stars creator Michael Straczynski. So Babylon 5, there's some accolades there. That's his CV, Keith. He identified the challenge in adapting the work because he was kind of saying, like, you know, creating a main character out of a book that reads as a UN report on the zombie wars was difficult, which makes a lot of sense. And I think he did a decent job of it, but unfortunately they had like 8 different people coming in there for rewrites, and so these things kind of get screwed up. But supposedly Max Brooks really liked the first iteration. A sequel was in the works with Fincher at the helm, which would have been very interesting.
I saw that. Yeah, that'd be crazy.
Yeah, but it kept getting pushed back.
That would be a good movie.
Yeah, I think that would be really interesting. Kept getting pushed back, and then it got canceled. Supposedly, the reason why it got canceled is the Chinese government put a ban on films featuring like zombies and ghosts, and so Paramount said, we're not going to make this movie because it's not going to be released in China. Zombie movies might get affected by this Chinese government ban. And also no more Patrick Swayze remakes.
Yeah, the art is being dictated by China. That's what we want, you know?
I know, right? It's crazy. Holy smokes. It's like they censor things and then we get affected because there's so much money there. It's wild.
Listen, if China says anything to us and they say they're going to ban us, we have a huge Chinese audience. So, I mean, we will abide by whatever they say, but these other people should.
100%. If they came in and said that they were going to sponsor us, we would never talk about zombies or ghosts ever again. So let's get into recast review. It got a 66, 72 on Rotten Tomatoes, so 66 critics, 72 audience. Pretty fair. It's just kind of like fair and middling. Mike Massey says, stilted dialogue and a meandering plot capped by an insouciant epilogue suffocate the originality of what is almost a family-friendly zombie movie. Certified fresh, though. Interesting negative report on something that he gave over 60. But yeah, I looked up insouciant in case people were interested, because I don't know what that meant. Showing a casual lack of concern or difference. Insouciant. Whatever. It's a terrible word. If you're on a site like Rotten Tomatoes, just use normal words that normal people know. Why do you have to show how smart you are by using big words? It never makes sense to me.
Just, show those words off camera, you know?
Yeah. It's like, keep that for somewhere else. Keep those big words to yourself. Crazy though, whenever you read these reviews on Rotten Tomatoes, because they're always like excerpts and whatnot.
It's like an SAT prep course.
Everyone wants to show all the big words they can say. I don't understand it. It's bothersome.
This is from Keith in the movies. We all know the moral story is you can't trust Keith. He said it was intense, fun, and most importantly, a well-structured and well-told story.
Wow.
Which I will give you intense. I'll give you fun.
Yeah.
I will not give you a well-structured or well-told story. I think, to me, it just felt like a medley of every zombie movie put together. They didn't know what they really wanted from it.
So taking from that you would not recommend this movie.
Yeah, with this compounded with the book being what I mentioned before, being more like the Martian type, like science-driven, newspaper reporting. Those two factors put it at 1.5 buddies or stars for me. I definitely would not rewatch it.
It's hilarious to me. Like, actually, I might start laughing right now that you suggested this movie after hating the book and said, you know what, let's do World War Z on the podcast. We've done like 5 movies and you've said, let's do World War Z.
First of all, The Martian movie is great. The Martian movie is an excellent movie. So, and I didn't like the book. So, I mean, there's been plenty of books or movies that I like that I don't like the books and vice versa. So that's neither here nor there, sir. That's a great point by you, Keith.
Okay, fair enough. I would recommend the movie if you like the zombie stuff. It's just don't go into it looking for some elaborate story. I think it's just a fun movie to watch. I mean, the fact that the wife enjoyed it and was like, "Oh, you're gonna have a fun time on the podcast because like this was such a good movie." I was like blown away. She hates these kind of movies, so
Yeah.
it appeals to some.
Does she also know that our best podcasts are when we shit on things, right?
Yeah, she doesn't know that. Wait for Star Wars.
Oh no.
I think if you just want a fun zombie movie and you haven't seen it, because there's lots of zombie movies out there, I would start with some other ones. But hey, if you make your way through them, definitely check it out. But really, I love the book. So the book is totally different. If you thought the movie sucked and that says you're not going to read the book, like, don't do that, because the book is totally different. I don't even remember the ending or if it mattered, because it doesn't really matter of the book. So yeah, I gave it though a 2.75 buddies, or 2.75 zombies.
2 3/4.
What's coming up next?
You already mentioned it. I'm gonna pronounce it right this time.
Yeah, I hope so, because
It's Heir.
oh, it is.
Heir to the Empire by Timothy Zahn. It's a Star Wars book.
Yeah, it takes place after like the battle for Endor, after the destruction of the Death Star.
5 years after Episode 6.
Yeah,
Yep.
exactly. So yeah, we're doing that up next, and then after that, I think we got like tomorrow and tomorrow and tomorrow or something like that. So if you're on Libby, you might be too late because it's like a 46-week wait, at least for me.
I saw like 800 people were waiting for
Yeah.
it when I put a hold on it. I was like, oh, great.
We'll be reading those two coming up. So this was World War Z, the movie featuring Brad Pitt. We're not going to do the book because Keith didn't like it, and we'd read it many, many years ago, so I don't think he's ready to revisit it. But feel free to pick up the book if you want to, and we'll catch you next time for Star Wars Heir to the Empire.
Oh,
All right,
yep.
bye now.